Who has actually not been up on the big board once at all today? Princess.
Oh, yeah.
Our lady in blue.
Yes. Princess, not quite as prominent as it was before the nerf, but I still think a very, 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 very good card.
You know, I still think it's actually the best legendary in the game. I'm surprised that people are kind of moving away from it. And just for the giggles, let's go ahead and switch this thing up to a different card. Let's get a Valkyrie in there. Yeah.
Cool.
Although Musketeer might actually be the real star of the show. Okay, so we have Bayu playing a minor control deck. I would say Inferno, but Fireball has replaced the poison. Possibly Bayu doesn't have either a level 4 poison or thinks that the minor Fireball combo is more worthwhile. There's a lot of fun when you throw a minor out there and they defend with something like Barbs or Valkyrie or Musketeer, and then you just Fireball the whole thing and take out the Collector Tower and what they're defending with. PatrikingX King playing his triangle defense deck that he's been very successful with so far.
And I think it's going to work out pretty well. I think that you need to be a little bit creative to push past an Inferno Tower with a triangle defense deck, but there are ways to do it. There are definitely ways to do it.
Good point. Yeah, let's get into this. People are giving good feedback in chat. I need to update some of these featured troop things. Some of these actually predate the new cards. Like somebody asked, like, why doesn't Log counter Princess? And when I made that, Log was like not seen at all in tournament play. It was like, I'm not gonna put that card up there. It doesn't actually do it. So, but you're right. Log is a lot more popular now, and we should definitely update some of these.
Right. Spear Goblins are always a great chippy card to play.
Yeah, it's actually a great way just to get 2 elixir out of your hand and force a reaction out of your opponent, or they take about 300 damage, which is, you know, kind of what you're good for.
Not really seen all that often. Princess in the back. Musketeer, then Valkyrie. That Princess is going to shoot at the Musketeer. And the Princess will push across. Now onto the Valkyrie. But really, Bayu was waiting for the opportunity to play his minor and chip away and use more fireballs. And interesting that Patrick King opted to use a cannon. I almost wonder.
I think the reason why he would do that is it's a way to get 3 elixir out of your hand. It's not the greatest answer, right? But what it does is it lets him play his elixir collector confident that he has at least some sort of defense in there.
I wonder what he's saving his zap for, because I would almost think in minion horde in 2 tower range, just zap it.
That's a good point. I'm not sure why. Or even Ice Spirit or something like that could buy you some time.
Yeah. We'll see. Here it comes. Ice Spirit Hog Rider did the jump, so it's
that's why, because he saw the Spear Goblins already.
Yes.
That's exactly it, actually, because the Spear Goblins were already seen, and what a great zap there on defense, or to use on offense, rather. Ooh, is that guard going to win this battle?
I didn't have enough health. Alright, Collector down. And the Fireball to punish it again. You need to bias it more towards 1 tower if you wanted to avoid or play it in the corner. And I wonder why, I guess because of the minor, that Patrick King really wants to play the Collector in the middle.
Yeah, actually, and the cannon, actually, that another thing I didn't even think about, the cannon in the middle there helps defend against minors, right? Like when you have your Collector, if they do send in a Collector, it kind of is like, well, gotcha.
The Hog Rider will swing away at the Inferno Tower and really need to look to cycle. Defend it. Nice. All right. Fireball.
Doesn't hit the Valkyrie, so it wasn't as big of a value as it could have been for Bayu, but I think that's generally like one of the better plans you can have going on there. I think we'll see the zap here now on defense, right?
I hope so.
Zap
I actually think that it's nice to zap Spear Goblins, but you don't necessarily need to save it for the Spear Goblins.
Yeah, because Spear Goblins are 2 for 2, and poison and things like that kind of take them out of the game already. The Valkyrie's going to drop right there in front of the river and wipe out all of those cards very, very quickly. That is a great defensive play there. He just took out a whole lot more elixir than what the enemy had.
Absolutely. The Ice Spear on the Minion Horde is going to work really, really well and keep the Musketeer health high. The question is, I think Patrick King, and perhaps rightly so, is playing very, very passively.
The cannon over and over again in the middle is starting to throw me off. I thought I knew why, but I guess I'm not sure. It also is a good way to absorb Princess shots if that ever came up. It doesn't really seem to be the problem here. Oh, 1 shot, 2 shots.
Goodness.
The Minion Horde takes it down. Minion Horde here, though, has been really a huge liability for Bayu because for 5 elixir, it's getting countered for 1, 2. I mean, that cannon was on the board a long time ago. Could have just timed out, and instead, it, along with the Ice Spirit, was able to kill the Minion Horde.
Yes, poison onto the tower. And it seems just really difficult for Bayu to kind of justify. I think the Spear Goblin Minion Horde, those two cards are kind of dead weight in his hand.
And at this point, I think Patrick is pretty much just ground out. He got the victory that he wanted, right? He ground out like a poison sort of victory. Big, you know, actually, this is a really smart play by PatrikingX King. Maybe that explains the cannon and stuff a little more. He knows he's going up against a very defensive siege sort of deck.
Yes.
Well, if he just attacks over and over again with Valkyries and Musketeers and Hog Riders, you're going to get completely cleared out, right?
Yes.
So the idea there was instead to play as defensive as the Minor Inferno deck, defend against the Miners 100% of the time, and just poison him out. Like, give him a taste of his own medicine, basically.
Yes, absolutely. And I think it worked out really well.
I'm pretty impressed. Yeah, like, actually, that's a way that I have not seen anyone play that deck that way in order to win that match, right? Like, that's a new way to play the sort of triangle defense deck to win here.
All right, and of course, we've seen the alternate deck for Patricking. It's going to be the Goblin Barrel Siege deck. So he's going to get Bowler Inferno and Ice Spirit Mini Pekka for kind of defensive purposes.
Right.
And then he's going to be poisoning and Goblin Barreling and just trying to chip out his opponent with those few cards.
I need to make a card for Goblin Barrel, a little feature thing for Goblin Barrel. We don't have too many of those at all.
Yeah, absolutely. Meanwhile, on the other side, Bayu is going to stick to his guns and use his Spear Goblin Minion Horde deck. I really hope that he shows me something much more special with this deck because I'm still not convinced that Minion Horde or Spear Goblins are the cards that you want to pick.
All right, that's good. Boink. I love the Spear Goblin play, though. Big fan. Okay. So Bayu, we know his deck a little more now. I think the big thing that Bayu didn't pull off in game one that he's going to want to try to pull off in game two big time is the Minor Minion Horde thing, right? Like, you want that Minion Horde to get zapped and then throw the Minor on the counterattack here. Oh, so here we go. Exactly what we're talking about. So the Ice Spirit goes in. Oh, okay, he has to use both.
Yeah, his collector took a lot of damage.
Man, Minion Horde has just been such a liability because even there in his ideal situation, pulling it off, the Zap Ice Spirit went through and stopped it.
That's
3 elixir for 5, even in your best situation. That's does not bode well for Bayu early in this match.
Yes. Goblin Barrel was played center on the tower and was zapped. I wonder if Patrikking will play any mind games. So far, only seen Gray do that. In tournament, in SuperMagicalCup. So far, only Gray has ever played mind game Goblin Barrels. Inferno Tower in the middle, and Patrikking is just buying time. He really just wants to set up a solid defense, play the bowler, and then poison out your towers.
So far, we actually haven't seen... The thing about PatrikingX King is that we already saw Bayu zap the Goblin Barrel. And there's really nothing else in PatrikingX King's deck that you'd zap. Like, what else are you going to zap, right? The Mini Pekka, maybe. The Bowler, maybe, right? So as long as Bayu can always come up with these zaps on defense, he even had a zap there and opted not to play it.
Yes.
Oh, there's the poison down. But that's going to be a little slow, and the damage gets through. He has to zap anyways.
Yeah, not good.
Ooh.
Just zap it.
Well, he spent what, 6 elixir there to defend against 8, but he lost a lot of pumps along the way. Yes. So I think you're right that Bayu got the better of that exchange for sure.
Okay, so Goblin Barrel is set up again. Patrikking doesn't have the poison on hand.
Boink!
Oh, just barely missed
Bowler
the
dodges. Wow. But here again, like, you can see Bayu's holding the zap with the Goblin Barrel in hand. How is PatrikingX King going to get through a significant amount of damage? He's going to have to start poisoning.
It's a mind game. It's a mind game.
Zap. Because of the slower deploy time. Now, ultimately, they didn't get there. But he did cause Bayu to waste a little bit of elixir. That's pretty smart there. PatrikingX King is a crafty player, for sure. Yep. We saw, and actually, I really like the lines of play. So here's one thing that stands out to me about a lot of players. I feel like a majority of players, myself included, play very similarly. Like, you have, like, you know, we all pump first and then try to play the giant behind the king tower, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Like, and what comes down to those sort of matchups is just mechanical placement, making sure you get the things right on the right square and all that kind of stuff. But PatrikingX King has very unique lines of play that seem to open up different strategies I haven't, you know, always seen that much of. The last game really impressed me, and here, getting fireballed out, but I do like that he's at least trying to use the Goblin Barrel in all sorts of different ways. They both zapped, which is kind of cool there.
We're getting into this situation where PatrikingX seems fine to have his Goblin Barrel zapped, and he's just trying to get chip damage.
Oh, got in, but not quite that much. Oh no, one more. I mean, any amount of
no.
damage really counts, and even that like one little bit of one minion attacking.
343 and Fireball and Zaps will take that down. He just needs to cycle it.
Yeah, he
and there's
needs
no
two
real
Zaps
big...
or one more Fireball.
Okay, he's going for a big punish here. Oh, tried to play all the goblins in front, but no, it covers around the tower, so you have to play them off the tower if you want to avoid that on-tower zap.
How without Miner or Rocket, PatrikingX King is winning with that deck so consistently, because obviously it's won in every single matchup all the way to here, but it's not like you don't see Zap in every deck, right? So I wonder how, with nothing else to bait the Zaps out, how that deck is consistently doing very well.
Absolutely. I want to see the Baby Dragon deck in pool play and also the Goblin Barrel deck in pool play. Oh, Bayo has his own Goblin Barrel too.
Oh, wild! Okay, so we're going into game 3. Now, both players have to be playing their alternate deck. PatrikingX King's playing the same deck he played last time. Bayu has to switch up from his deck now that it's won a game. And he has a Inferno Poison control deck as well, except his is running Goblin Barrel instead of Miner, and then like Hog, I guess, somewhere
He
in
really
there.
likes his Spear Goblins. He still has
Wow, that's a
Spear
really good point, because Spear Goblins, we haven't seen much of Spear Goblins at all, really. And what's wild to me is that he's playing it in both decks. He didn't just opt to use it as a filler card in one deck, but is actually using it as, you know, like the card that he can't play without. Signature card for that, but I don't even have a Spear Goblin little card.
That's crazy.
Let's get into it.
Let's
I think
see.
the big deciding here is that will he be able to play the Hog Riders through the bowlers, right? We've seen how effective Bowler is at holding off Hog Riders. And once again, to Bayu 3 games in a row now has opened with a Spear Goblin and gotten the damage on that left hand.
Oh, it's a mind game.
That is certainly a game you could play, I guess.
Now, the thing about when Gray did it is he always had units pushing down at the same time, or he had a miner.
Yeah.
And so the goblins, even though they would be off the tower, they would survive much longer because there was something tanking for them.
Just notice the level 3 Goblin Barrel for Bayu, too. So he's gonna try to pull this off with level 8 goblins coming out of that barrel.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay, so we've got the poison coming down. I mean, that's really what Bayu is going to have to hope to do with this deck overall. Is like, you're going to have to not just poison the towers out, but try to take Elixir down with it, and he takes 4 pumps off of that collector, repaying the poison while also doing some damage to the tower.
Yes, Spirit Goblins to punish and just getting some easy damage.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I get it. You don't want to... Like, here's a good example compared to the last game, right? We talked about how there's nothing in PatrikingX King's deck that you would zap, right? So the Goblin Barrel is just going to get zapped 100% of the time. But having minions and Spear Goblins and Goblin Barrel in the same deck actually makes it really hard for Patrick to know when and where to zap.
Yes, he needs to make a very calculated decision.
And he doesn't have zap right now, so what's he going to do? He's got Bowler. The Bowler's turned around.
No!
All the Goblins are used basically as a distraction for the Bowler.
And that one Goblin in the back got a lot of stabs off. 902. Hog Rider Goblin Barrel is an 8 elixir combination to play, or rather 7 elixir combination to play. And it got a good amount of damage. Playing a Bowler on defense wasn't that effective.
And now that he doesn't have Zap again, that 3 elixir minions just got a ton of value. They killed Bowler and Mini Pack, a 9 elixir worth of troops, while standing outside of tower range.
Yes. Poison on the right side tower, just to deny the elixir collector.
All right, poisoning down. So even though Bayu would probably want to save his poisons for the left side, he thinks it's more valuable to stay ahead in the elixir race, especially because Bayu's deck does not have an elixir collector itself, so it can't race. Like if you let Patrick get 2 to 3 pumps out, you might lose, even if you have an advantage deck-wise. And actually, that was weird because those things just died on the way back from the tower.
So I keep mentioning Gray because Gray was the first Goblin Barrel player who was playing it really, really effectively. He used Goblin Barrel Miner and always made sure his Goblin Barrels were protected. They're going to get a few good stabs off, and the zap is a little bit late.
I didn't like that Hog Rider because the Inferno Tower, even at half health,
was
able to kill it. I think that was kind of a waste.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't really think that the Goblin Barrel is a huge improvement over a Miner. Like, the Miner, I think, works better in this deck in almost every way you want it to work better. It's not going to die to zap. It's, well, I think it's cool to see people experiment with this archetype and try to figure out other cards to play in there. I just think that the Miner is going to be so much better in this archetype moving forward. So cool. I mean, I guess the game's not over yet, right? There's 700 left, but I just haven't really seen much out of this deck from PatrikingX King in 2 games now that tells me that he's ever really going to do 1,500 damage, although I'm eating my words because he just did about 300.
Yeah. And I think there is a place for Goblin Barrel to be played, but it needs to be a little more innovative. It can't be just your standard, like, you don't just replace a miner with Goblin Barrel and expect it to work, right?
Yeah, well, especially if there's nothing else in your deck that's worth zapping.
Exactly. There's a difference in playstyle and when you employ it and how you set it up.
Even little dumb stuff like if there were fire spirits instead of ice spirits. Well, at least you might zap fire spirits every once in a while, whereas ice spirit doesn't die to zap, so you never zap it.
Yeah. Well, these goblins. Oh, but they're
It's a
spirit
good point.
goblins.
Somebody's pointing out that it's perhaps that he doesn't have miner, but
Yeah.
even if he doesn't have miner,
There's better cards to
last
play.
week Chicken Bob's rocket deck looked insane. Like I'm surprised that we haven't seen more of that rocket deck. Although I guess we're about to watch Turtwig Data and we might see some rockets there. But I'm just surprised that we didn't see more of that, the Inferno Tower rocket deck, because I was actually more impressed with that than a lot of the minor versions we've seen.
Yes, there are definitely different ways you can justify Bull or Inferno Tower.
Yeah.
You know, there's many different ways to do it.
Hey, big shout out to Bayu, by the way, because I'm really impressed with his Goblin Barrel deck. We've been kind of pooping on Goblin Barrel here for the last few minutes, but really that's only in the context of PatrikingX King's deck. Bayu is doing exactly what you'd want in a Goblin Barrel deck by playing lots of zap targets and zap and arrow targets that really force the opponent to be like, I can't stop all these things effectively, and then it causes them to overspend. When they overspend, you can defend.
And it's very, very chippy as evidence. I mean, Bayu has this in the bag. You could just zap it.
We're kind of crapping on it, though. There was only 500 damage left on that tower. He was able to